By now, one thing should be clear. Memory is not stable, but unreliability alone is only part of the story. What makes memory truly dangerous is not just that it changes, but that it can be shaped, influenced, redirected, and in some cases, deliberately engineered. Memory is vulnerable because it was never designed to protect truth. It was designed to protect meaning. That makes it highly susceptible to manipulation, especially when emotion, authority, and repetition are involved. False recall does not begin with deception. It begins with suggestion. A simple phrase like, "Are you sure that's how it happened?" plants doubt. A leading question reframes the event. Over time, the mind fills in gaps to restore coherence. Eventually, the suggested version feels familiar, and familiarity feels real. The brain does not distinguish well between remembering and imagining. If a detail fits emotionally and logically, it can be absorbed into memory without resistance. Once absorbed, it is no longer tagged as external. It becomes yours. This is how false memories form, not suddenly but gradually. Consider a common scenario. A family argument is discussed repeatedly over the years. Each retelling emphasizes certain details and omits others. The story evolves. Eventually, you remember things you never personally witnessed. You feel emotional reactions to moments that were described, not experienced. The memory feels vivid, but it is constructed. No one lied. Memory simply adapted. Authority amplifies this effect. When information comes from someone perceived as knowledgeable, powerful, or trustworthy, the mind lowers its defenses. Teachers, parents, leaders, media figures all shape memory not just by what they say, but by how confidently they say it. This is why people can misremember historical events, childhood experiences, or personal decisions. Authority provides a framework, and memory fills in the rest. Emotion is the accelerant. Fear, guilt, pride, and belonging all increase suggestibility. Under emotional pressure, the brain seeks resolution, not accuracy. If a new version of events reduces discomfort, it is more likely to be accepted, even if it is wrong. This is why memory manipulation is effective in high-stress environments. Interrogations, propaganda, cult dynamics, advertising. Repetition cements the illusion. The more often a version of events is repeated, the more familiar it feels. The more familiar it feels, the more credible it becomes. Over time, repetition replaces verification. People stop asking whether something is true and start asking whether it feels right. This is how collective false memories form. Large groups can come to remember events inaccurately, not because they were fooled once, but because the same narrative was reinforced from multiple directions. Social agreement strengthens memory confidence, even when the memory itself is flawed. The brain interprets consensus as evidence. Memory manipulation does not require control over facts. It requires control over framing. What is emphasized? What is ignored? What emotions are attached? Once emotional meaning is established, facts become flexible. This has personal consequences. People can be convinced they were treated unfairly when they weren't, or that they were safe when they weren't, or that they chose something freely when they were subtly guided. Over time, these memories shape identity, behavior, and loyalty. False recall becomes part of the self. What makes this unsettling is that resistance is rare. Memory feels private, internal, personal. Most people do not question their recollections because doing so threatens their sense of continuity. To doubt memory feels like losing ground. But awareness changes the dynamic. Understanding memory manipulation doesn't make you immune, but it makes you cautious. You begin to ask where a memory came from, how often it's been repeated, and whose version it reflects. You notice emotional hooks. You notice certainty without evidence. You notice stories that feel rehearsed rather than recalled. Memory will always be malleable. But once you understand how false recall forms, memory stops being unquestionable authority and becomes something you examine rather than obey. The most powerful manipulations don't rewrite the future. They rewrite the past. And once the past changes, the present follows.